Hello, this is Chris, and what I am going to show you today is how to set up the Eclipse Integrated Development Environment, otherwise known as an IDE, that I'm strongly suggesting you use for Comp 15 this semester. Why am I suggesting that you use this? And by the way, I'm not going to make it mandatory, but whenever you come into my office and ask for debugging help, I will bring up Eclipse and we'll use that. But the reason I suggest it is because it's all-inclusive to an all-inclusive environment to include a bunch of windows for all your files for your projects, and also, and this is the biggest part, is that it's got an integrated debugger with it, and you'll quickly find out in Comp 15 that you do a lot of debugging of your programs, and having an environment where you can debug the programs efficiently and in real time so you can see all the variables and what's going on in your program is super helpful. And those who used it in previous semesters found that it was a much faster debugging situation. So I would suggest that just because some of the programs we're going to be writing will require some in-depth debugging, and using the Eclipse debugger that's built in is very effective. For those of you who don't want to use it, there are other solutions. You'll probably at some point need to use the GDB debugger, which, by the way, Eclipse has basically is an interface to the GDB debugger, and we'll be using. You can use GDB if you want, but this, trust me when I say that Eclipse is going to make it easier to debug. Okay, so what am I doing? I'm actually on my Mac here, and I'm showing you how to set this up so that you can use Eclipse from your own computer, whether you're in the dorms or somewhere else on campus. And you can do it from a Mac or a PC or a Linux box. And it's relatively easy to set up. If you happen to be on a Mac, you do need to first set up, you may need to first set up the Xquartz environment, XQUARTZ, and Google that and install it. It takes 5 minutes to install. If you're on a Windows PC, you will need to install something called MOBA Xterm. There are other solutions, one's called PuTTY and Xming, but MOBA Xterm happens to be a very good solution that I would suggest. So Google that and install that, and you'll be good to go. Once you get this set up, you'll be into a situation where you can SSH into the homework server. Okay, so I'm going to do this with the SSH-uppercase X and my username and homework.cs.tufts.edu. And what this will do is the -X says, hey, feed me the windows from the homework server that I'm going to use for my program. So in this case, it's going to be the Eclipse windows. Okay, when you do this, it asks for your password, and you will be logged in, you get some warnings and so forth. And then what we're first going to do is, I've actually done this already, but I'm going to make, actually I'm going to do this first. Comp15, okay. All right, first things first, I'm going to make a new directory called Comp15. I know some of you guys like to keep your folders in the desktop, keep them wherever you want, but what we're going to do for now is just set up a Comp15 folder, and then I'm going to change into that folder, and you'll notice that there's no files in there. And then I'm going to make another folder called pointer math, which is the demo project I'm going to show you right now. Okay, and then I'm going to change into that directory. And if you don't know any of these commands yet, because you haven't used this before, then you'll have to get up to speed on some Unix commands. It's not they're not hard, but what I did was I just made a directory, and then I just changed into the directory, etc. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy some files from the homework server. Okay, from the Comp15 webpage. And here's how we're going to do it. It's going to be copy/public_HTML/files/pointer-math and /*dot. And what that does is that copies all the files from this folder into the current folder that you're in, like this. Okay, and I just did that, and when I do a directory, there are all the files. Now, some of these you might recognize from other classes. There's a main.cpp file, there's some other .cpp files and a .h header file, there's a readme file, and in this case, this might be the one file that you don't recognize. There's a thing called a make file, which is a file that we will use to actually produce our programs so that we can submit them to the homework server, and actually makes it easier than doing the provide line that you might have done in Comp 11. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to type Eclipse to bring up this Eclipse program, and I'm going to do a little ampersand on the end there to say, hey, let me go back and continue working on the terminal if I want to. Okay, and what will happen is, there might be some messages, don't worry about these. Eclipse window will come up. I made my window small enough for the video, but this will come up, do some processing here, and eventually it should, might take a little bit of time, come up with a window that I'll drag in here, looks like this, and it says select a workspace. I'm going to select just the default workspace. You can click this little button to make it never ask you again. In this case I'm not going to, but you can do this. Once you do that, the following will come up, does a little more processing, and then something like this comes up. Now, as it turns out, and I'm glad it came up this way, because if it looks like this and it doesn't anywhere on here say C++, that may mean that you have to restart this process. So I'm actually going to do that right now. Sometimes this says C++ and you don't need to, but all you need to do is exit out, and then for whatever reason the setup files don't set it up properly to use C++, but when you close out and open it again, it does work fine. Okay, so this will happen. You might need to hit return to get this to stop. Try it again, Eclipse. It will come up again. It will do the processing, and hopefully it'll be set up correctly this time for C++. So we will wait until it does that. In my case, I'll have to select the workspace again. As you can see here, I will select the workspace again, and then it will load, and hopefully this time it will come up after a little more processing. It will come up and give us there it is, C++ development, which is exactly what we want. Now, we don't want to click on that. We actually want to click on this little workbench down here. Okay, and what will come up is a window. I'm going to make it as big as the window as I can here. And a window will come up. What you've got is you've got the Project Explorer over here. This is where all your files and projects are going to be. And then this window will show your actual program. The window down here will show the output of your program. So as I said, it's nice that it's all in one place so that you don't have to worry about having files all over the place. It's all going to be right here, as you'll see in a second. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I want to show you how to set up. You'll only have to do this once. This is going to be setting up the entire environment. Okay, if you go to Window and then Preferences and click on that, there are a zillion different preferences. So Eclipse is an open source project. There are a million preferences for various things. What we're going to do is we're going to set up a couple just to start out with. First thing we're going to do is we're going to click on this general arrow, and then lots more options are going to come up. Okay, we're going to do general arrow, and then the first thing I want to set up is just the workspace here. Go down here and just click on the workspace, and the only thing we need to do in here is click on this button that says Save Automatically Before Build. That means that every time you go ahead and make your program, it will save all the files that you've been working on. Okay, and then you can click Apply, and then you can go to, that's all we need to do in this window. Then we're going to go and we're going to click down here on this Editors button. Okay, we're going to click the actual arrow for the editors. Then we're going to click on Text Editors. And what we're going to do here is we're going to change, first thing we're going to change is the displayed tab width. Now, there's lots of different, lots of people who have differing opinions about this. I like to use a tab width of 8 because it makes it easier to see everything on the screen, and I suggest that you do that. Okay, the other thing you want to do is you want to click Show Print Margin. That will show you where the edge of the 80 column line is. And in fact, in Comp 15, we actually take points off if any of your lines go over 80 characters. And so you'll want to have a little line there that says, hey, you're going too far over the thing. Also click Show Line Numbers. That's important because we want to be able to say which line we're on and see which line we're on. So click that. And that is all we're going to need to do for this window. Okay, click Apply. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go down to C++ arrow here, and then we're going to click on Code Style. Okay, and in Code Style, this is again where you have to change just the tabs. That's all we're really doing here. So what you'll see up here is it says K&R built in. If you click Edit there, then what will come up is another window. All you need to do is go down here and click 8 tabs here, and then it actually shows you what it's going to look like. Okay, you have to change this instead of built in. You need to change this up here to be like 8 tab. It's not that important. You can click apply, and then there's an OK window, which doesn't show up on my screen here, but you click OK. Then you can click apply again. Okay, and those are the first things we need to do for setting up the workspace. Okay, and that's it. Okay, so we can click apply and then click OK, which again is off the screen here. So I can probably move it up here. There it is. Click OK, and then we're back to the main window. But you only have to do that once at the beginning of the course, and you shouldn't have to do that again. What I'm going to do now is show you how to set up a new project, because you will do this many times during the course. And it seems like a lot of steps, but it's actually relatively quick to do once you get used to it. Okay, so to set up a new project, you're going to click File, and then New, and then Project. Sometimes it says New C++ Project. In fact, what we can probably do here first is, if you go to this little Open Perspective window over here, and you click on Other, then click on C++, because we're going to be using C++ in particular. It will change the window slightly. Okay, and then when you do New, it will go to C++ Project, and you'll be able to open that. Okay, so we do a new C++ project. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to do this called this pointer math, and then you have to be very careful here. And this is something you can't call it the same name as the folder that you created earlier. Okay, right at the beginning we created a folder. Let's see if I can get to there here. Yeah, let's see. Yes, this. If we look at this folder that we created earlier, pointer math, the one that we copied all those files into. You can't just call the project pointer math because it will not be able to find it properly. So what I normally do is I normally do pointer math and then something like underscore project, just to say, hey, this is the project that I'm going to use. Okay, use default location is fine. What we're going to do is, this should already be highlighted, empty project. We do want to click on Linux GCC because we're running this from a Linux computer, and then you can click next. Okay, and then you just click advanced settings. Okay. And then this will be more settings. As before, there's lots of settings here. Okay, we're going to do a couple different setups here. First thing that I like to click on is the arrow that says C++ General. Then you go down to Paths and Symbols. And what we're doing is we're basically going to link the folder we just created with that pointer math, those pointer math files into the excuse me, into the Eclipse setup so that it knows where to find them. Okay, so you click Paths and Symbols, and then over here you're clicking Source Location, and then Link Folder, and then click on this little box that says Link to Folder in the File System, and then you need to browse for where it is. Right now, what you can do is generally you'll be able to click on your username, and then I made it comp15, and then pointer math is where it is, and these are all the files we just copied. Okay, and that's where we want to link. So we click OK, and we click OK again, and then we click Apply. And now everybody's linked in properly. Okay. The next thing we do is we need to set up to use what we call the Clang Environment. Okay. So I click on the arrow next to C++ build, and then settings down here. Okay. And in Comp 11, you probably used the G++ compiler. We are actually going to use the Clang++ compiler, which you need to set up as the compiler for C++. And the reason we're using Clang++ is because the error messages are so much better than G++, and it's just a better environment altogether. The other thing we need to click is down where it says GCC C++ linker, and you need to also type Clang++ there. Okay, click Apply, click OK, and we'll be good to go. And then finally you can click Finish, and what happens is it put the project that you set up over here. And the little arrow next to it, if you click on it, you'll see there's the folder pointer math that we set up. Click on that arrow, and guess what? There's all the files that we want to work on. Okay. Here's what's cool about this. You can click on one of the files; it will bring it up. Notice this is a just a regular main.cpp file. You can look at all the things. You can do the editing right in here. Normally, I close this window to give me a little more space here. Close this and close this. And you can see that line right here. That's the 80 column line that we're talking about. Okay, that's the one that you don't want to go over that when you're writing your programs. What's cool is if you click on some of these other files, right, pointer math, pointer CP, they all come up here, so you've got all of your files right there, easy to locate, easy to look at. Okay, all right. So now that we've got this loaded, this project loaded here, what we're going to do is I'm just going to run you through how to actually run the program to build it and run it. Okay, and there's a little icon up here that's a hammer icon. Okay, and that's what you'd use to build the program. So if we go straight up, if we click on, let's say we have something here open. If we click on the build icon, what it will do is it will try to build your project. Okay, if this doesn't work, by the way, it may be because you've got, like, in other words, it gives you some other weird error message. Maybe because you have other projects open, and what you want to do is you want to click on the other projects and then go to project, close project. I'm not going to do that now, but you can. You might need to do that, and you should always only keep one project open at a time. So what I do is I actually built this, and you'll notice there's some errors here, right? If I click on the console over here, you can see all of the errors that came up, and I purposely put errors in here so that we would have to go and debug them. And in this case, what does it say here? It says error use of undeclared identifier I, and then nice thing about Clang is it says, hey, look, this one, and it puts a little arrow there and says right here. What's cool about Eclipse, this is one of the cool functions about Eclipse, is if I just double click on this red line right here, guess what? It brings up that line in pointermath.cpp, which is awesome because you don't have to go finding it in the folders, just double click right there and it brings it up. Okay, so now if we look at this and we say, okay, let's look at and see what's going on. Int temp for I equals 0. Oops, it looks like we forgot to declare our variable I. Okay, you can do this a number of ways. I'll just do it like this. Once you change that, if you go back up here and hit the little build again, well, it tries to build it again, and guess what? It goes and it says, hey, I finished building the project, and everything worked out. There's no more errors, and we are good to go. Okay, so I'm going to run this, and before we do that, I want to show you what we're actually doing. If we go back to the main.cpp, what it's going to do, it's going to create a class PM called pointermath PM that we've created in our .h file. Okay, and it is going to create a pointermath variable class called PM, and then it's going to fill in the array that we've created with a number of, like, the number 0 through 9, as it turns out. Okay, and by the way, the pointermath class it's a very simple class. If you're new to C++, this may look a little overwhelming, but it's not so bad. There's a constructor, there's a destructor, and there's a few functions in here. There's an append, there's a delete at, there's a reverse, and a print function, and then some private variables with my array, etc. And all it's going to do is going to fill in that array with the numbers 0 through 9, then it's going to print the array, then it's going to attempt to reverse the array, and then it's going to print out the newly reversed array, and then it's going to exit. So that's all our program's doing. Here's how you actually run it. Okay, if you go up here and you click on this little button here called Run, you can also do it from the Run menu here. Okay, if you click on this, and normally what you do, the first time you do it, you should probably click on the actual project itself and then click Run. This should work. If it doesn't, you can there's some other things you have to do. But if it's, as long as it's called Pointer Math Project and you're clicked right on that project and you click this, it should run for you. And it tries to run it, and then it puts the output right in the console down here. And notice what happened here. Let's look. It says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then remember it was supposed to reverse it and then print it again. Well, looks like we've got a little bit of a bug here. There's some weird bogus value here, and then it reversed the rest of it, but 0 is left out. So looks like we have some error, some bug here. They're going to have to debug to figure out what our problem is. Okay. Well, what's cool is in Eclipse, as I said before, you've got this built-in debugger. Okay. Now let me show you how that works. So first of all, we know that it's printed out the first array. So it looks like that worked perfectly. It was supposed to put the values 0 through 9 in there, and then it was supposed to reverse it and print it out again. So this reverse part is probably where our issue is. So let's go into pointermath.cpp. We'll go down to reverse, Okay, actually we're here right here. And what we could do, of course, is we could look through this and see, hey, what's going on, and just debug it like this. And this is the way you might have done this in Comp 11. But I'm going to show you how to actually use the debugger itself to do this. Okay, so what we can do is we can say, hey, I think something's wrong with this for loop here. If I double click on the number here, this is a little hard to see, but if I double click on the number here, you'll see there's a little blue dot next to it. What that says is, it says, hey, this is a breakpoint. When you're running my program in debug mode, stop at this line so I can analyze what's going on. Okay, and now we've got a breakpoint set, we can actually start the debug process. Well, guess what? There's a little bug up here that says to debug it. If you click on the debug thing, what will happen is it will compile it again, and then it will say, this kind of launch is configured to open the debug perspective. Do you want to do this? Yes, of course I want to do this. I want to open the debug thing. So I always click remember my decision. And then yes, and what it does is it changes the window around, and it puts up a whole bunch of very helpful information. Okay? First thing that it puts up is it puts up a little window here that right now is going to be kind of confusing, but it basically says what function are you currently in. Okay? And what it did was it started the program and ran it until the first line of your program. Okay? And what it's doing is it's saying, hey, I'm running main and I'm at the first line. What do you want to do next? Okay? Some other things that are here. There's a variables window. We'll get to that in a few minutes. There is a console window, which is going to print the output again. There's an outline. You don't need to worry about that. And then there's a whole bunch of buttons up here, which become very important. Okay? This little green arrow button is resume. And we're going to click that next, actually. And what that says is go to my next, continue running the program until I hit a breakpoint. We can also have this terminate, which means stop debugging. We have a step into button. This is important if you are at the beginning of a function and you want to step into that function and see what's going on inside that function. There is a step over button which says, hey, I'm about to run a function, run the function for me, and then stop right after that function has been run. That's also very important. Okay? What we're going to do is we're going to hit resume. Okay? And what it's going to do is it's going to run until it gets to, notice this is where we put our breakpoint before, line 38, and it's going to run until that line, and it stops. And the program has gone and done a whole bunch of things. Notice it's already printed out the array. It did all that, and it ran the program, printed out the array, and now it's saying, hey, I've stopped at your breakpoint. What do you want to do next? All right, and we're going to actually take a look at what's going on in our program. Notice up here, you've got these variable windows say, hey, this is exactly what's set up so far. We've got a temp variable, and we've got our I variable. They both happen to be bogus numbers right now because we haven't actually gone into our for loop yet. If we say step over or step into, it doesn't actually matter in this case. I normally use step over unless I'm going to go into a function. If we click the step over button, all right, notice that it went to the next line and said, wait, what do you want to do next? And it updated I equals 0. Temp is still bogus, but that's okay. And it said, what do we have? You know, it highlighted the fact that I is 0. Those are the two function variables. What's really cool is there's also this other variable called this, which is your class variable. And it says, and if you click on the arrow next to that, I'll make this a little bit bigger so that we can see it. You can see it's got your array in here, okay? And if you click on the array right now, you don't actually get much information, but this is really cool. If you right-click or if you right-click or command-click on this, and by the way, if you're on a Mac, you have to set up to do command as your right-click. It's pretty easy to do. You can't see this, but I'm hitting X11 and then preferences down here from X11. If you go here and click input and then emulate 3-button mouse, whenever you hold down the command button, it will be as if you are doing a right click. If we right click on array here and then say display as array and tell it that it's an array of length 10, what it does is it changes it so that it shows you every little part of the array, which is very cool, right? So we've got array 0 is 0, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 is our final part of the array. So that's cool if you want to observe what the actual array values are. Okay. By the way, notice that we are now in the pointer math reverse function, and if you wanted to see where we got there, how we got there from main. You click on main, and then you click on the pointer math reverse function, and you can see exactly where we are. Okay, so let me make this a bit bigger again. So here's what's going on. Right now we're saying that we want to put in the temp variable. This is some pointer math. We say we want to put in temp variable what's at array, which is some hexadecimal value here, plus I, which is 0. We want to put that into our temporary variable. Okay, if I click step over, okay, and you can actually see that it did that. It put 0 in there. So far, so good. That's kind of what we wanted to put in there. And then what we're doing is we're trying to reverse this array. So we're saying, okay, array at location 0, because I is 0, equals array plus the size of the array minus our 0. And if you'll notice there, if we step over again, we can say, okay, let's look and see what array at location 0 is. Uh-oh, this is the bogus information. Okay, so we've just figured out this is where the problem is happening. And in order to not make it so suspenseful, here's what we did. We had an off by 1 error. Because the size of the array is actually 10, what it's going to do is it's going to try to go and take the value after the array and put it in the variable instead of the value at the actual location of the last element, which is at position 9, because arrays are 0 based. So it's array plus size minus I, and we should have a minus 1 in there to then take away that off by 1 error. Okay, we need to do it also here, and this will properly put our variable. So we've actually fixed the problem, but how did we get to the problem to fix? Well, we walked through it, noticed where the problem was, looked at it, and said, oh, this is the issue. Okay, so this helps in debugging by finding where your problem is very, very quickly. Okay, now, because we've changed part of the program, we actually have to recompile it. So what we can do is we can hit the stop button here and says, hey, we've just done some compiling. And then we click on, we can just click the run button again if you want. Instead of debugging again, we just click the run button. And it says modified, save the changes. Yes, I want to save the changes. And then it will run it, and guess what? We fixed the problem. Okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. So we fixed the problem. Okay, that was the little tutorial on debugging. Now, what I do normally is I normally go back to the C++ perspective with this little button up here, and then you can always try running it again and just making sure that it works. So now we've got a working program. What do we do next? Well, we do need to provide the program. So what you can do is you can actually exit out of Eclipse, or you can just change to the window, but you can exit out of Eclipse, and it looks like there are some errors here. You can just ignore those. But if you hit return, you will it'll be exiting out of Eclipse. And then notice we've got our files here, and you can actually see, we can actually look and see that we've changed some of these files, right? Less is a command that allows you to look at a file one at a time here. If we go to the reverse method, you can see that we actually changed the file in the folder. Okay? What you can do here is, in comp 11 you might have typed something like g++ main.-o, pointer, etc., etc. You might have done all that. Because of this make file, this automates a lot of these tools, and all you have to do is type make, and guess what? It does all that for you. Okay, it uses Clang++ instead of G++, and it does that. And if you look, you've got the file we just created, the name of the program there, and if we run it, you can see that we've run it properly. The other nice thing about the make file is the way we've set it up is you can just type make provide and then enter, and it will try to provide your files to the homework server so that we can grade them. Okay, and that's it. If I did it right now, it actually has an error because I haven't set up provide. But in terms of how you do that, you just type make provide, and that's it. Okay, so so this is how that was how you set up Eclipse. I went through it fairly fast, but you can always rewind and go through it slowly. But if you have other questions, we will talk about it a little bit more in class or in lab, and you should be good to go. Thanks.